It has been 15 years since the movie Shutter Island has been released, and I still see people having the wrong theories about the movie to this day. For those of you who have not watched Shutter Island, it goes as follows. Leonardo DiCaprio goes over to investigate an island that is a psychiatric ward for the mentally insane. He uncovers dark truths, secrets, and ends up becoming the final patient that he is actually looking for. However, I think this is an elaborate ruse, and I think there is a deeper meaning to the movie Shutter Island that Martin Scorsese wanted us to know about. I would like to formally apologize to anyone who has watched Shutter Island and truly thought that Martin Scorsese guiding you through the ending was the proper ending of the movie. That is completely false. Welcome to the Shutter Island theory that no one likes to hear. Let's start with one of the most basic theories that people talk about in reference to the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio, or Teddy's, fear of water. We see this in a couple of different scenes. Where he's getting on the boat, he's very seasick and obviously nauseous from the water. That would make sense. I'll give a point to the theorists. We then have a scene where he's talking to one of the patients, and Teddy doesn't see the water that the patient is drinking, but it is clearly there. So yes, I'll give another point to the theorists. I would like to debunk this in one swift thing. Why the f does Leonardo DiCaprio jump into the water to swim to the lighthouse? If he's so afraid of water, why the f would he swim in it? This is one of the many examples that I would like to give to the theory about why I think Teddy, or Leonardo DiCaprio's character, was not actually crazy and was secretly being convinced in the movie Shutter Island because he was about to uncover some dark truths about the systems and things that were going on in the island, like lobotomies. Martin Scorsese made this movie as a cop-out ending for everyone to keep debating and talking about the film in itself. Absolutely, it worked for me. I was talking about it with my girlfriend, yes, I have one of those, for roughly 30 minutes to an hour until we stayed up till 3 in the morning. The cop-out to do an ending where it's, oh man, you decide what the ending is, I think is total garbage because it shows that you really didn't know what you wanted the ending to be. You can debate the claim that he wanted to make the ending indefinite because he wanted people to talk about it, choose their own adventure. That only works if the ending actually has some kind of relevance to what the ending was. If it's just going to be a static scene of a lighthouse showing he probably got lobotomized, dumbest ending ever. When the movie starts out, we see Leonardo DiCaprio walking out of the bathroom after puking, understanding he's seasick. Now that is the first indication that he is afraid of water. He then goes and meets his partner, which is played by Mark Ruffalo. A couple of things with this scene. If they were actually partners, they would have gone on the boat together. Meaning that this character played by Mark Ruffalo is definitely not a partner he's known before and likely his psychiatrist that is revealed in the end of the movie. That being said, if we spin it the other way around, Martin Scorsese did not give enough information leading up to that scene. What if Teddy was actually working at the police station when it was happening? What if the police people told him, hey Teddy, when you get there's gonna be your new partner at the dock already before you? Martin Scorsese purposefully leaves this out so we can infer the guidance of the movie that the character played by Mark Ruffalo was actually his psychiatrist that we find out in the end of the movie. If he provided details of this, this theory would actually subside and it wouldn't be a real theory, it would just be bullshit. Now let's get to when he actually arrives to the island. We obviously see a shot of the ferry arriving, hence that we actually do get there. The scene that a lot of people talk about is when they have to give away their guns. Leonardo DiCaprio's character Teddy gives the gun right away and Mark Ruffalo is struggling with the holster, showing that he is not an actual marshal and he is just his psychiatrist. Point one for the theorists on that side. There are certain times that Leonardo DiCaprio's character has flashbacks, and a lot of people reference these flashbacks to him remembering a fake past to actually what happened where his wife actually did drown his kids and his wife didn't burn in a fire. Let's debunk that real quick. Do we remember when Leonardo DiCaprio had his first vivid memory and flashback? Oh, wasn't it after he took the pills prescribed by the doctor for migraines? Right, yeah, that makes total sense to me. Oh, he's having hallucinations probably because he's actually in the place where he's getting psychiatric help? No, I think it's because the doctor drugged him with psychedelics and make him think that he's doing this. Did you also understand that before he gave him the pills, they were telling him about the situation that he was going to be investigating, planting the seed of his head of that he might be crazy, and they give him psychedelics, so he's going to be thinking about things that are not. Bro, another key moment in this movie is when they start interviewing the patients and we understand that one person writes on a piece of paper to Leonardo DiCaprio to run. This point makes no sense whatsoever because why the fuck would one of the patients write run on a piece of paper to Leonardo DiCaprio? If the staff knew that Leo was not crazy and he was a part of this whole operation, this elaborate fantasy, why would they allow one of the patients to be writing something to him? They would have quickly stopped that and allowed no access to them to even write anything down. They would have stopped, hey, don't write that down in the scene to be like, hey, you can't do that. But instead, they wrote it down, letting us question what even that was. Well, it was a point to get you off track to what Martin Scorsese was trying to lead you down the rabbit hole of, which is that Leonardo DiCaprio's character is crazy. bullshit. Let's talk about the part where they're visiting the headstones of everything and they go into that little room where all like the stained glass is and Mark Ruffalo's like, it's an island, they're always gonna find us. This is where I think they believe that they need to teach him that he is crazy. I think that Leo already knew a lot of information about the island. I think he knew a lot about it. I think they knew they were doing government experiments, and I think they were just trying to get him over to the island to trap him. I think the turning point was when Leo's character Teddy was like, I got a guy on the inside who's been here before. They took him away for this. He pled guilty. He took a plea by insanity. It was the whole freaking thing. Oh shit, Teddy knows too much. I didn't know he had a guy on the inside. We got to convince this guy faster. I think that was a pinnacle moment that many people overlook where they go like, that scene was nothing. It was absolutely something. It was the moment that people realized that Teddy wasn't crazy. He actually had a guy on the inside that was knowing about the island and got out eventually. And bro, it just baffles my mind that there are all these things that people are like, bro, that doesn't matter. Did you see that he didn't see the water cup? And one of the biggest lies about it comes through the entire movie, the storm. The storm is one of the most pinnacle parts of the entire film. The storm's happening. They can't leave the island because of the storm, all the storm, this, that, and the other, the whole entire storm. They can't move. But in the end, Dr. Crawley tells Teddy, I've been hearing this fantasy for 2 years. The missing patient, 6-7, the fantasy of the fire burning, the girl, Rachel Solanda, the storm. Wait, the storm? He's been hearing about the storm for 2 years? But of course, Dr. Crawley would have to tell Teddy that the storm was a part of the illusion because it was one of the biggest reasons why he couldn't get out. But is Dr. Crawley insinuating that the storm was completely fake? When throughout the entire movie, there are multiple things and multiple reasons why things happened in the film that were caused by the storm. The massive power outage where the escapee choked out Teddy, did that happen because of a falsified storm that was in his head? The trees that were down, the so-called I can't leave the island because of the storm. There were so many things that Dr. Crawley said happened that I think he was just bluffing to convince Teddy that this was all fake. Also, are we completely outlining the point that at the end of the movie, he got a lobotomy at the lighthouse showing in the final scene, but when he was walking around the lighthouse, there was nothing there, almost as if they knew he was going to go to the lighthouse? Did anyone notice when he blew up the car, the people that started chasing him never caught up to him because they wanted him to go to the lighthouse because they knew he was not going to find the lobotomy stuff because they took it all out. They also said it was a sewage plant, and there was no sewage stuff in there. So which is it, Doc? Sewage plant, lobotomy? Before I get into more theories, I need you to understand that anything Dr. Crawley says in the film as he's talking, you have to treat it as a lie because everything he says to Teddy is a lie. So you have to infer that the lies happen all the time. You can't insinuate that Dr. Crawley, every time he was talking, he was telling the truth, but he was lying. When he gave the pills to him, they were like no pills, they were like sugar pills. Was he telling the truth then about the pills? Oh, you're going through withdrawal. We're gonna believe him now because the jig's up, or are we gonna actually follow through with that he's lying the entire time? There's a theory there. In also a lot of these trip ups and psychedelics, there are allusions to the actual story. When Leonardo DiCaprio is having flashbacks, there are elusive traits to these flashbacks. There are things that are not real that are happening. And when he's having these psychological episodes, there is a exaggeration to what is going on. When the psychotic individual says you're in a rat race and he goes down the mountain to try to find Mark Ruffalo's character and there's a bunch of mice everywhere, it's personified. And then he sees the light up in the cave. And he goes in, and there's suddenly a woman in the cave, which leads us to the final theory. The woman in the cave is real, guys. She's not a fictitious character. And this is the telltale sign she isn't. One of the biggest things that Teddy's character follows throughout the whole movie is that everything he's learning is typically not new information. He knows this case like the back of his hand, seemingly after entering with no knowledge about it in the first place. He knows pieces by pieces, and he never really gains new information from these delusional moments that happen in his head. So when he meets the doctor and asks what a lobotomy is, and the doctor is giving him information about the lobotomy, suddenly Teddy gains new information, which is physically impossible if he's in a dreamlike state, psychologically seeing someone who isn't real. You cannot gain new information in your dreams, as dreams are already things that are implanted in your brain. So how was Teddy able to learn something new from a fictitious person? It's because the fictitious person was real. Also, the anagrams are one of the biggest cop-outs in the entire film, yet everyone thinks they're the nail in the coffin for this. While Edward Daniels is an anagram for Andrew Latus, he is never called Edward in the entire film. He always goes by Teddy. So the anagram of finding this makes absolutely no sense because the character name call-out doesn't even match the anagram that is throughout the movie. Yes, that can go for pretty much anything if a nickname has a real name, but if the nickname was the prominent name in the entire movie, why make the full name the anagram that you need to figure out? It absolutely makes no sense. And while the name Dolores is an anagram of Rachel, it's kind of already debunked because the hospital staff tells the name right away to Teddy. So they could have easily just picked a name that felt like an anagram that they needed to make him know, which was his wife. They practically could have chose any anagram to pick because they already instilled it in his brain. Coincidence? So with all this fluff about everything, all the theories that I have for you, everything about debunking this and debunking that, what's my theory? My theory is that Teddy wasn't actually crazy. Teddy was uncovering governmental secrets, and they got to him first. Teddy was on a mission to uncover Shutter Island. He heard stories, he heard that they were doing government experiments, lobotomies, the whole 9 yards. And Mark Ruffalo's character was his partner, but also worked for the government. And when Teddy got the case to go to Shutter Island, the police department knew that Teddy was trying to uncover government secrets that maybe they even had ties in. So saying he's going to have a fresh new partner that he's never worked with to go with him, who's secretly a psychiatrist who's going to instill memories on him, who has not been his psychiatrist for 2 years, has been a brand new person in his life, they're going to slowly feed him ideas and make his story feel fake. I don't think Teddy's wife killed the kids and drowned them and then he shot his wife. I think his wife really did die in a fire. And once they started up, Mark Ruffalo gradually decided to drug Teddy slowly but surely. Notice how he takes pills when he has migraines and uses cigarettes to calm the nerves. But the cigarettes are slightly also causing him migraines, needing him more pills. I think the cigarettes were also laced. Notice how he never has his own cigarettes on him or his own lighter. For most of the movie, the hospital staff is going along with the ruse that Daniels needs to be convinced he is crazy. So they are gradually giving him more drugs and giving him more clues about the island till eventually he uncovers that he might be crazy. What happens is Teddy Daniels is a very smart individual and decides to uncover more secrets, like escaping, going off on his own walks, finding things about himself that he didn't know, and eventually comes to the conclusion that the staff is out to get him. The story about the escaped patient is just to get him in the door, and Mark Ruffalo even says that while they're in the building. They know they're gonna get you, they set this whole plan up, and they're thinking they're doing something where they're convincing Teddy that he's crazy, but I think they're just instilling to Teddy thinking that he's stupid, even though they know he's highly trained in his chart. I think they might have gotten that chart from, I don't know, the US Marshal that want him to get help, and by help, I mean lobotomized because he knows the secrets of Shutter Island. I want to also establish the biggest flaw in the end of the movie that really will change your opinion on whether you think Teddy Daniels was crazy or not. Do you understand at the end of the movie when Mark Ruffalo is looking at Teddy Daniels and is like, hey, what do you want to do next, boss? And he goes, we got to get off this island. He relapses. He relapses instantly. He is told that he needs to fix himself or he's gonna get lobotomized, and he relapses. That's when the movie theorists split, because they say this: Teddy Daniels is crazy and didn't want to live with the truth, so he decided to fake relapse to get lobotomized so he could die or not live with the guilt and trauma of what he was feeling. So he did it on purpose. We can establish that he did it on purpose together. That is the way that Scorsese unites us. The reason that he splits us apart is why he did it on purpose. Do you notice the quote at the end of the movie? Would you rather live to be a monster or die a good man? Many people speculate that is the point where he realizes that he cannot suffer the trauma and he needs to lobotomize himself because he knows he really is crazy. Wrong. He is looking at Mark Ruffalo saying, would you rather live to be a monster? The monster you are right now, Mark Ruffalo, making a man believe he is insane, or die a good man, a US Marshal who lost his wife from an arsonist and being tricked by the government into believing he is crazy because he is trying to uncover secrets of a company and a place that is doing harm to individuals, as he looks directly at him. Did you also notice that when Mark Ruffalo's character looks away to the police, Leonardo DiCaprio stays with eye contact, knowing that he is looking at the staff, shaking his head, being no, he has to lobotomize him, instead of looking away like he's going crazy? No one noticed that? This final part right here was the reason and moment that I believed that Scorsese left so much out on purpose to divide us. Why didn't they show the ferry? Why didn't they show the ferry? When he was sitting there getting ready to leave, why didn't they show the ferry? And when he relapsed, the ferry drives away. Maybe because even if Teddy was smart enough to outsmart them and believe he was crazy and believe he was going to get better, they were not going to let him off the island because they knew he was smart enough to trick them, and they were not going to let him leave the island to begin with. So by Teddy giving up, he He wasn't giving up because he knew he was crazy. He was giving up because he knew that these people were not going to let him leave the island regardless, and instead torment him into thinking he believed he was crazy for the rest of his life. So instead he decided, lobotomize me, you guys win. This movie wasn't about him being crazy. This was a movie about Scorsese trying to play everyone's brains into thinking they were crazy. Thinking people like me trying to uncover the truth of a movie where the ending doesn't even exist. Do you notice in the cave scene where the woman says, anytime you are established as being crazy, anything you do in defense, people will just claim as crazy? Do you want to know what the real ending is? There is no real ending. Scorsese copped it out on purpose so we would be making videos like this. And this gets into my deeper point. Fuck that ideology. I don't like it. I think a movie should have an ending and also ways to leave up to interpretation. I like when it ties all the loose ends and still leaves people wondering, because you can then have the benefit of the loose ends being tied, but then getting to experiment and think about other theories. Scorsese purposefully made the movie to split people into two, that it makes people like me believe that I'm right and you're wrong and you're right and I'm wrong. So when you come into a debate or come to talking to someone about this film and you think you have a correct theory, like I do, guess what? I'm part of the problem as well. I think I'm right and you think you're wrong, and you're gonna think that you're right and I'm wrong. And the ending never gets there, and Scorsese stays laughing in his seat because he made such a good movie that had so many theories, yet it was one of the biggest cop-outs in movie history.